My teacher of blessed memory, Dr. Stanley Gewurz, was a lover of Bible, a lover of biblical literature, and he said that the Bible may not have captured history as it happened, but it captured history as our ancestors wished it would be. And so the book of Numbers that Rabbi Yoshi referred to, which begins with this week's Torah portion, does a census of the Israelites, and the numbers are impossibly large. 50,000, 60,000, 75,000 of each tribe wandering the desert. And what it seems to speak to me about is what the Bible's trying to say is the power of numbers. I don't mean numbers, the name of the book, but I mean actually the counting of numbers. That when you are either numerous or you act as if you're numerous, you make a difference. And the amazing thing about we Jewish people is that we punch above our weight when it comes to our numbers. And I'm telling you this because this past Monday and Tuesday, Rabbi Yoshi and Jacqueline and our temple president, Vic Silic, and we joined a group of wise congregants and nearly 700 other Jewish advocates. Now, in that room at the Grand Sheraton, we felt like way more than 700. But when we spread out into the Capitol, we felt, Sharon is here too, you were with us. We felt like even more than 700. It was a summit of an organization called Jewish California. Yoshi wrote a little bit about it in his Shabbat Shalom message. I'm going to add to that. It was formed in 1972 when it was called JPAC, the Jewish Public Affairs Committee. And the goal was to advocate, and to use their words, for a safe, just, and equitable California. Jewish California has 41 member organizations. Among the most significant is the Jewish Federation of Los Angeles, and Wise Temple is going to become one of the first synagogues to be a member organization as well. Debbie Graboff, our own Wise member, happens to be chair of the JPAC board. And in Sacramento, not only were those people present, but we were joined by many allies. People, non-Jewish allies, people who stand with the Jewish community. And interestingly, many of them receive stipends from Jewish California to be a part of this gathering. So here's what went on at the summit this past week. First and foremost, this was Jewish unity at its best. We talk about the power of Jewish unity, but the truth is we're an ornery bunch and we don't always get along so well. But here at the Grand Ballroom in Sacramento were hundreds of Jews, some wearing kippot, others not, liberals, conservatives, Orthodox, Reform, left-wing Zionists, right-wing Zionists. We were in the same room, sometimes sitting at the same table, and there were no fireworks. In fact, we were united to advocate for issues that are of concern to the entire Jewish community of this state, and that's what made it particularly powerful. Next notable point about that experience was that this state, California, has the second largest Jewish population in the country. We have 16 state legislators. They're called the Jewish Caucus. All of them joined us at some point during the gathering. And we also heard from a host of political and communal leaders. California's Lieutenant Governor, Eleni Kounalakis, was a featured guest, as was the former first gentleman, Douglas Emhoff. Now, you know he's Jewish, that was an easy lift, but he showed up. Other elected officials included the governor, who sent recorded messages, as well as others. In addition to showing up in a massive display of unity and influence, we were there actually to lobby. And as a veteran attendee, I led one of the more than 40 lobbying groups that fanned out through the Capitol to do our work, to meet with legislators or their aides. And Jewish California, because of its ability to heft influence, secured meetings with 115 out of 120 of California's legislators, or their aides. We followed the agenda that was worked out by Jewish California and the 16 members of the Jewish Caucus, issues that were specifically of concern to the Jewish community. And we addressed those priorities with the other 104, so 16 Jewish, 104 non-Jewish legislators. Now, most of these legislators were probably oblivious to most of the bills that we were bringing to their attention. Not because they weren't doing their job, but because these bills were still in committee and they hadn't yet gone to the floor. So we brought bills to their attention that they otherwise might not even have noticed. It was our job to call those issues to their attention, to leave them with documents talking about the importance of the bills to the Jews. So here are the bills we asked our legislators to support, and it speaks volumes about not just the Jewish community in California, it speaks about California, it speaks about our legislators, it speaks about what we can do for ourselves in this state of 40 million people. So the first and foremost priority for us was bills countering anti-Semitism and hate. If you remember, last year we spoke about AB 715, AB 715, which passed and went into effect on January 1st. It was a huge bill, championed by Santa Monica Assembly Member, Assembly Member Zbor, Tzbur, I can never pronounce his name. And it provides schools with the tools to identify and respond to and prevent and counter anti-Semitism. And to that end, then, we built on that success and lobbied for additional bills. So one of the most important ones was put forward by our own Encino Assembly member, Jesse Gabriel, which helps nonprofits with security grants for off-site programs. So we get grants already for on-site, for the campus itself. But if we do a program in a park, Shabbat at the beach, Tashlich at the beach, it's an additional security burden on the nonprofit, and usually on the Jewish nonprofit. And so this was legislation to get additional monies for those security needs. Next, we advocated for something equally important, safe worship zones. You remember, and rabbis from Wilshire Boulevard Temple spoke about this at the conference, that many Jewish community organizations in the city had problems with demonstrators either blocking access for people who were coming to pray or protesting outside in ways that disrupted worship. So what we advocated for was the development of safe worship zones around places of worship. Now that included Jewish and of course non-Jewish sites as well. The last item of specific interest to the Jews was a bill recognizing Jewish ethnicity. Now let me think about that for a second. Why would we need a bill for Jewish ethnicity? After all, we all know that we're both an ethnicity and a religious group or a people. Well, when the state measures hate crimes, it usually focuses on religiously directed hate crimes. By saying that Judaism is both a religion and ethnicity, what it does, and this was put forward by Henry Stern, a member of the Jewish caucus, a senator, it allows the state to also keep track of hate crimes directed at Jews as an ethnic group. What does that mean? Jewish film festivals, people speaking Hebrew in the streets, or an Israeli flag. Those are ethnic symbols, not necessarily religious symbols, and so now the state actually can prosecute people who might harass Jews involved in those kinds of activities. And also, we have an ethnic studies bill. That ethnic studies bill now, because Judaism is an ethnicity, allows Jews to be included in teaching for that bill. And finally, because Jewish values are not solely self-interested, we also lobbied to support a range of social services for vulnerable populations. Budget cuts in DC, the budget resolution that was passed, have really hit our poor and underserved community particularly powerfully. So we lobbied for support for refugees. Refugees are people who are here legally, given safety in the United States. They're refugees in California. We lobbied for money for those refugees to make sure that their needs weren't cut. We lobbied for a bill to ensure Medi-Cal coverage for the poor in our state, to reduce obstacles to enrollment, because it's become more difficult to enroll. And we lobbied for expanded food benefits because many people's access to food stamps have been curtailed, and California is stepping up to provide for them. My lobbying group visited with 2 Republican legislators from the Central Valley and Bakersfield. Not a lot of Jews there. High numbers of Latinos. Nonetheless, we were welcomed by their representatives. They listened to our pitch, they asked questions, they were engaged, they accepted our leave behind packet with more details, and as the bills moved through the process, the legislative process, Jewish California is going to reach out to these gentlemen and hopefully secure their votes in passage of these important bills. So, if you're cynical, you might say, nice, right? What difference does it make in my life? Well, let me put it in perspective. We're a state of 40 million people. The budget is $500 billion for the state. That is similar to a country like Germany. California has the fourth largest economy in the world after the US, China, and Germany. Its economy is $4.3 trillion. To date, nearly 20 states looked to California's model for their own anti-Semitism bills. We were the first, they followed us. Even some national policies have been put into effect because of California's precedent. So finally, one more piece that will point to the importance of this gathering. The office of the UC president sent many representatives, a handful of representatives, to the Jewish California Capital Summit. They'd never come before. This was the first time they came. Yoshi and I, along with our anti-Semitism task force chair, Dona Yamini, got to sit down with them, 5 of them, the 3 of us. We were able to raise issues and ask questions. We discussed the significant progress to ensure that the disaster of anti-Israel and anti-Semitism, anti-Jewish hate that percolated through our university campuses after October 7th would not be repeated. And we were assured by them that significant efforts are underway to quash anti-Semitism, and they pointed to their successes. It's been a much quieter year. How significant is it? There are 310,000 students on UC campuses. That's a lot of lives touched by these policies that the Jewish community is able to secure enforcement of throughout our state. So here's the bottom line. I hope these numbers have impressed you. You don't have to remember them all. You just have to be impressed by them. Because it matters. Collectively, we are making a difference, not just for Californians, because we are, not just for Jewish Californians, but for all Californians. And ultimately, as you can see, as goes California, often so goes the nation. Policies passed here influence states throughout our nation. So when you get an email from one of us, and we ask you to call your legislator or send an email or do in some way to raise your voice, please do it, because we're making a difference. When we invite you to join us for a gathering or we lobby our legislators, please do it. No, it's not Washington. No, we can't impact international policy directly from California, but we can influence the direction even of this country through our activities. I want you to write this down. Next year, May 3rd, May 4th. We had a nice crowd this year. Next year, we're going to beat VBS. They had 30. We can do better. Now, I'm not telling you Sacramento is a beautiful place to visit. It's okay. But I am telling you that you will come home inspired, and you will feel that our numbers, and as Rabbi Yoshi said, our heads have been lifted, our numbers have been lifted by the presence of all of us there, because we raise our voices, we speak out, and what's amazing is that people listen, and we make a difference in people's lives. So that's an invitation to all of you. We will be together in Sacramento eating mediocre kosher food, but it's a good experience.